it's Brand and Izzy coming to you with the BTBY, Becoming the Best You Talk Show. And today we have Dr. Stephen Hunsley. And let me tell you, he's got a medical story that will blow your mind. So I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you. Tell us about your education and kind of where you got started, because he goes by the nickname Doc.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. Love being with you guys. Like you said, my name's Doc. Real name though, Stephen. My parents aren't that weird. I do have a brother. His name's not Dopey, but his name's David. But my real name's Stephen. Everyone calls me Doc though, because I'm a pediatrician. I was actually a pediatric ER doctor working in an emergency room, taking care of my patients. And I was actually 26 days into my dream job when I got sick from taking care of my patients, and ended up spending 46 days in the intensive care unit. I actually spent more times in the intensive care unit than I did in my dream job there. And during that hospitalization, 3 different times, the doctors told my wife to make plans because I wasn't going to make it through the night. And the top 4 diagnoses on my chart, each one by itself has a 0.1% survival rate. So none of the doctors expected me to live. They all thought I was going to die. In fact, I was so sick, they forgot to give me nutrition. And as a result, I lost 75 pounds of muscle mass and had to go through 9 months of rehab to be able to walk again. So I went through the rehab, made it through all that, and then get ready to go back to work. Got my flu shot and go to work. My second day back at work, I got sick. I ended up with influenza despite having my flu shot, and that sent me back in the intensive care unit, where once again, I almost died, and I should have died. And God again had his hand on me.
Man, did he?
And then I was blessed. Shortly after that hospitalization, my second son was born, Mark. I'm blessed with 3 kids now. Luke's my oldest, Sarah's my youngest, and then Mark is my middle son. Took a week off of paternity leave and came back to work. My first day back to work, I got a call from my boss to come to an important meeting downtown at the main hospital. So went down to the meeting, didn't know what it was about. They just said, get here as quick as you can. So walked in, and it was a large room filled with every one of my bosses, from immediate boss to the chief of staff, the entire HR department, 2 rows of attorneys I've never met in my life before, and 1 row of physicians I never met in my life before, and 1 chair in front of everybody. And they said, Dr. Hunsley, have a seat. We'll start the meeting. I'm like, oh, snap. I see the writing on the wall here. And so I quickly did a text message prayer. God help, take the wheel. I don't know what's about to happen. I sat down, and they proceeded to tell me, Dr. Hunsley, they said, Dr. Hunsley, you're a wonderful physician. We love having you. However, you became a medical legal risk to us. We're afraid you're going to get sick and die. And therefore, effective immediately, we're not terminating your job, we're terminating your career. Just like that, I had to hang up my stethoscope, and I couldn't practice medicine anymore. I was mad. I was frustrated. There was nothing I could do about it.
Not to mention the money spent on education.
Absolutely. I had 6 figures worth of student loans, which, praise God, he helped me through. I had literally just paid that off shortly before getting sick and everything. I had done a bunch of moonlighting to knock that out. My wife's also loaned, so got all those done. So God prepared us for all that. So what did I do next? I took the hardest job I had in my life, and that was become Mr. Mom for my 2 boys. It is an incredibly hard job. And any dads who are out there watching, if you got a wife who is a stay-at-home mom, trust me, it is an incredibly hard job. You never should come home and say, why don't you have this done? Or why isn't that done? What have you been doing all day? It is tough.
It's nonstop.
It is completely nonstop. You never get to take a rest or break. It's all the time. And so I did that for my 2 boys, then ages 3 and birth. And fast forward, by the time Mark was 8 months old, he had his first seizure. And that seizure lasted over 4 hours. And sometimes having medical knowledge is not always a good thing. So I'm immediately already preparing. My son's got a brain tumor. Who am I going to have? And I'm already making all the plans, got all the studies, and thankfully no tumor. But it wasn't until 18 months we finally got a diagnosis. And that diagnosis was Dravet syndrome, which is a very rare genetic seizure disorder. And then by the time he turned 2 years old, we got the diagnosis of autism. So my wife's also a pediatrician. We met in med school. And all of a sudden, we went from being physicians who took care of individuals with disabilities to all of a sudden being a parent of a child with special needs and disabilities. And it was the first time in our life that we got it for the very first time, how difficult it is to be a parent, that it's 24/7, 365. You never get a break. I've been in public with my son, Mark, and he's having an autistic meltdown. And I have complete strangers come up to me and tell me, I'm not just a bad parent, I'm a horrible parent. Because they assume it's bad parenting. And they have no idea it's autism.
Problem, right?
And let me tell you today, if you ever see, especially an elementary age child who's misbehaving out in public, that, my friends, is autism. Autism is 1 out of every 44 children today. Don't start judging the parents. Instead, ask and see how you can help them. Or my son is sitting there trying to harm himself because he's upset. He's hitting or biting or hurting himself. I go try to protect him and put him in these holds where he can't do that. I would have police officers come up and threaten to arrest me or threaten to tase me because they think I'm endangering my son. It's
You're really
all,
protecting
I'm
him.
protecting him.
Yes.
But that's a lack of education, a lack of knowledge in the general public. And that's what families with individuals with disabilities go through every single day. You can't go out to dinner without having people stare at you, gawk at you, make comments. You can't get the neighbor girl to come and babysit for you because it just doesn't work.
Date night doesn't happen.
There are no date nights. So one of the things I remind everyone, let's think back a couple of years. What just happened? We had COVID, and COVID hit the entire country. The world shut down, and we were all locked into our homes. And you know what? At first, everyone loved it. The first couple of days, the first week, we got to watch everything we wanted on TV. The kids loved it. We streamed everything on Netflix. It was great. It was happy. We loved it. After a week, we wanted to go to work. My kids wanted to get back to school. Why? We needed community. We couldn't stand it.
Sometimes
a month came. Absolutely. Then a month came, 2 months, and we were stir crazy. Guess what? You all just experienced everyday life of a family with a child with disability. More. 11 years ago now, my son was cured of everything when he was born into heaven at the age of 5.5. So we were blessed with Mark for 5.5 years and learned all the highs and lows of being a parent of a child with disability. And then we walked through the grief of losing a child with special needs. And just, parents are never supposed to bury their own child. Our kids are supposed to bury us as parents. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, go through that. And then 6 weeks after my son passed away, my intestine exploded on me. And I almost died once again. I ended up spending another 3 months in the hospital, lost 10 inches of my colon. But God had his hand on me again through that whole process. And again, I'm another living miracle on what happened. Something happened that no one's ever seen in medicine. And I can simply say it was God. It was a miracle, and it was God taking care of me. But I can thank God because all of it has allowed me to do what I'm doing today.
And that's another reason why we're here. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So you know what? In order for me to heal emotionally, physically, spiritually, I need to serve others. I need to take my eyes off of myself and on other people.
Many people need to learn that.
It is vital.
Yes.
Because we cannot help ourselves improve with our eyes on ourselves.
No.
We have to look at others.
The focus is wrong.
And the focus is in the wrong place. And when we can help someone else, that is when we can get better. And so that was the first thing I looked at was how can I help other people? So because I desperately want to get better. I want to help in every single one of these areas. And yes, I was still angry with God, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stronghold God and say, I'm not going to do anything here. Show me and let me work through this. And so I had this conversation with their children's pastor. And he's like, I just thought I was having lunch with another children's pastor. I'm like, you are, but I'm here. Take me, what you want. And 5 minutes later, I got a phone call from him and the senior pastor. And they said, you know what, Doc, We kind of know all about you. We've stalked you socially. We've heard about you from a lot of people. We want to have a world-class children's ministry, but it's impossible for us to have a world-class children's ministry until we do a disability ministry. And so we believe God brought you to us. We want you to help us start a disability ministry. Would you do that? And I sat there and I said, well, I really don't know what I'm doing, but let's start. So that is how SOAR Special Needs started.
And that's how God paved your way.
And
to
God
get there.
paved the way to get there. So SOAR Special Needs started as a ministry of Grace Church, and started with just 3 individuals that we knew we had there at the church. I went on, joined the staff as a full-time disability pastor for them, did it completely as a volunteer, didn't take a dime, and was on staff for the next 8 years. And we grew from 3 families to over 800 families we served.
Wow.
Grew from about 5 volunteers to over 2,500 volunteers that we had for it.
That's a big job.
It's a huge job. And
Yes.
God blessed that church. We went from 1 campus to 3 campuses plus an online. And he truly blessed it. And that's what the Bible actually says. If you welcome families with disabilities, he will bless
Yes,
you.
that's right.
And that was evidence there. And then we were doing a lot of different things, offering respite, all kinds of things. And so 2.5 years ago, the church came to me and said, God, Doc, we see everything God's doing with you and where your vision is. We want to help SOAR become an independent nonprofit. So December of 2019, SOAR Special Needs became an independent nonprofit completely on our own. And so
That's great.
now for 2 years, we've been on our own, just in time for COVID to hit. Great timing. But SOAR stands for Special Opportunities, Abilities, and Relationships. And SOAR exists to transform the lives of special families. And we empower them to soar in their local and faith communities. And we help answer the 3 main questions that every family with individual with disability has. First question, will my child ever be able to provide for themselves? Second question,
That's a good question.
who's going to take care of my child once I'm gone? And then the third question, who's going to take care of me as a parent or a caregiver? You know, ladies, those are the 3 questions that kept me up at night
Oh, yeah.
while my son was alive. And I was too scared to talk to my wife about it. My wife and I talk about everything, but we never talked about that because I was scared to death. And it wasn't until after Mark's death that I finally was brave enough to mention that to my wife, at which time she shared those were her questions.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh,
You should have
and
been talking all along.
I know. And now every parent I talk to, those are their questions.
Yes.
These are the questions of every family with the individual with
And you can
disability,
help them with
but they're
those.
scared to death to answer the question because they're taboo and no one has the answers. So instead, SOAR answers these questions with our current and future program. So what do? First, we offer respite on a monthly
Yeah,
basis.
Tell them what that is, because a lot of people don't know.
Absolutely. So I love jokes. I love puns. We call it sorely needed R&R because it truly is sorely needed.
Yes, it is.
I already shared about the divorce rate, 90%, 95%. It's equal to that of combat war veterans and professional athletes. There are wonderful programs out there for both of those groups of people. Nothing at all for families with disabilities. Families with disabilities are frequently overlooked and no one is the voice for them.
And nobody wants to help.
And nobody wants to help. So God's calling me out to stand in the gap and be the voice for them. And what we do is on a Friday and or Saturday, we go all throughout the greater Kansas City area, completely free, give these parents a night out, a 2 to 3 hour break. We take care of the individuals. Currently, we take all ages, all diagnoses, all severities. Currently serving ages birth to 73 years old. I
It's
can't
not just
wait till
kids.
it's
Right.
not just kids. We
Right.
got a lot of adults and I can't wait till we get a 90-year-old.
Yeah.
I know they're out there. We'll take them. But we also take all diagnoses. We take medically fragile individuals as well. I have a full medical team, a full behavior team with every event we do. But then we also take care of the siblings up to age 13. After 13, it's not cool to hang out anymore. But up to 13, they
That's
come.
typical, right?
It is. But what happens a lot of times, they come back to serve with us because they love what's happened.
That's
And
good.
so it's really cool to watch. But then we allow the parents to go out and have a night. And one of my favorite things is the stories that come back at the end of those nights.
I think I heard one when we talked in a previous conversation. Why don't you talk about that one?
Yeah,
Something to say.
so I've got two favorite stories, but some of them just blow you away that they say, one of the families I talked to, they came back and mom and dad were there and asked how the night was, and they're crying, and mom goes, tonight was the first time in 18 years my husband and I had dinner alone together.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? Going 18 years without having a meal alone with your partner, period. That's everyday life for these families.
Yeah.
But the one that really sticks out, again, I asked mom and dad, and mom came in and she shared, Doc, tonight was the first time in 12 years that we were able to have dinner together. And it meant so much. And she's crying. And then dad, and remember, this is a Friday night. And then dad goes, you know what, Doc? Like my wife said, this night meant a lot to us. But I've got to tell you, I have an appointment Monday morning with a divorce attorney to drop divorce papers. Mom's jaw hit the floor. She had no idea. They never talked about it. And he goes, and mom's now hysterically crying. She's like, what?
And rightly so.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
He just dropped this bomb on her. And he goes, however, like my wife just said, tonight's the first time in over 12 years we've eaten alone together. And I learned I still love my wife. I just need time alone. And we never get time together.
Handle that to get that flame going again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to make you a deal right now. If you promise me you'll continue to do these respite nights, these sorely needed R&Rs, I'm going to postpone that meeting with the attorney. Well, it's 8 years later and they've never had a meeting.
That's good.
And so
Wow.
that SOAR, like I said, SOAR exists to transform the lives of these families. We kept that marriage together. Not only that, we transformed the life of their child. That child now has parents who are together and pouring into them as they're growing up. So what else do? We also provide summer camp every summer. This year we're doing 2 camps. We're doing one in Overland Park and one in Lee Summit. And our camps are 8 hours a day for 5 days, where we focus on one's ability and not their disability. We give our campers a day camp experience that they get to do things that everyone else gets to do, but they normally don't get to. We send them down water slides and zip lines and just amazing experiences that they get to remember forever. And we won't charge, thousands of dollars for it just because it's special needs. So we make it affordable for them, but then that means we're dependent on organizations and businesses to help sponsor and help us out with donations. We're now 501c3. We completely dependent on individual donations. And so we just give these families this wonderful break.
And it's needed.
And it's truly needed.
It is needed.
And the thing that I love with everything we do with our respite and with our camp is the way we introduce our campers and the way we introduce our individuals at respite. We celebrate them for them. And so when we announce them and welcome them, and encourage anyone watching, go to our YouTube channel, SOAR Special Needs. You can see some of our previous videos, but we use green carpet. And we've got 2 main colors for us. Green is one of the main ones. That's the main color in our logo. Why? That was my son Mark's favorite color. SOAR is truly a legacy of my son living on. The other color is purple. Purple is the color of epilepsy and Dravet syndrome, which my son has. So this is truly his legacy living on. But we have a green carpet that all of our campers walk. Not a red carpet, but all of our VIPs, all of our campers walk this green carpet. And everyone is on the side, and I announce them and we cheer them on like nothing ever happened before. Parents are on the side filming it, crying, because no one's ever made over their child.
Right.
First time I ever meet a new child and new parents, my first question for parents always, tell me something wonderful about your child. Tell me something wonderful. Too many times when someone has to take care of them, they're like, what do I need to know? Tell me all the bad things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they're first created in the image and likeness of God. They're amazing people. Tell me something wonderful.
That's great.
And then at the same time, I want to encourage everyone here who watches this, next time you see an individual with a disability, ask them what they want to do when they get older. Why is it? We'll ask every kid we ever see, what do you want to do when you get older?
Good
But if
point.
they're in a wheelchair or if they have a known disability, we'll never ask that question. They still dream and they can do anything possible. We just need to help them. A few months back, I asked about 11-year-old with Down syndrome what he wants to do when he gets older. He goes, Doc, I can't wait to be an astronaut.
Aw.
I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's shoot for that. I can't wait for you to be the first astronaut in space with disabilities or Down syndrome. I'm behind you. I'm on your team. Let's help shoot for the moon, literally,
Wow.
with that. So we do the camps. I've already mentioned too, we firmly believe every family with disability should be able to go to a place of faith of their choosing,
That's right.
no matter what denomination, no matter what that faith is. And I always shared the numbers. Only 11% of churches of all denominations welcome families with disabilities. So SOAR has set a goal to assist at least 1,000 churches in creating disability ministry in the next 5 years. To date, we've now done over 500 churches throughout the United States and 12 countries around the world, where we're helping train them how to welcome families with disabilities and become inclusive churches and truly experience this. And so we're halfway to our goal, and then we'll double that again. But we're trying to scratch that. We also host the largest disability conference in the country called the Wonderfully Made Disability Conference. And that'll be coming up in October this year. We have 2 tracks for that, one for families with disabilities and one for ministries and organizations that work with disability. But our whole theme for that is hope for today, strength for tomorrow.
Oh, I love
And
it.
that's our goal. We want to give families, we want to give everyone, let them know there's hope for today, and we're going to give you what's needed to have strength for tomorrow.
That is wonderful.
And bottom line, that hope and that strength is Jesus Christ.
It is.
And
Amen to that.
he can help us through anything that comes our way,
No matter what it is.
no matter what it is.
You also do more.
We do more. So we also now are working at creating employment, and we want to eventually be able to train individuals with disabilities to get jobs.
Yes.
We're working with employers to train them. Unemployment rate for adults with disabilities is 80%, 80, unacceptable. At the same time, the majority of the states in this country have it legal to pay sub-minimum wage. That means you can actually pay pennies on the dollar for someone who's disabled doing the exact same job as someone else.
Yeah, if they're
And-
doing the
and
job, they
that's-
should get the pay that the other person.
Exactly. And that's not right either.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're working on that. We're also working on creating housing. So many of our adults with disabilities, they'll graduate from high school, then there's usually, depending on the district, an additional training they can do through the school. That depending on the district goes to either age 21 to 24. Once they finish that, there's almost nothing out there. Programs are disappearing, grants are disappearing out there. So a lot of these places are gone. There's not many day programs and job training. So there's not a lot out there. So we need to come in and help with that. One of the first things we're doing right now too is we've created SOAR social clubs. And our social clubs are for individuals 18 years old and older who are higher functioning. And they are desperate for community.
They are.
They
and
might have
need
a
that
job. They
friendship.
need it.
Yes.
And they might have a job, but everyone at work's afraid to talk to them because they're a little quirky. And whenever there's someone that's not like us, our go-to is to ignore them and not do anything with them. So they're desperate for friendship. They don't have any of their friends from high school anymore because they've all gone off to college. And so they are depressed because they have no community. And so we create this time where we can come in our office, we can get dinner, watch movies, play games, break out the Xbox, and just have fun. We've got an air hockey table that they'll play on and just have a blast. And for those who don't understand how to create the friendships, we have volunteers who can help promote the friendship. We had 3 guys who came in the first night. They'd never known each other. They walked away. You would have thought they were the 3 Musketeers.
That's good.
They were whooping and hollering. It was so much fun and just loved that whole experience.
You also had a prom not too long ago.
We
where
we did a
you
prom.
supplied dresses and,
Yep.
and suits if people needed it.
Yep.
Yes.
We also are doing special needs proms where we have both it's for the parents and the kids, all ages with that. And then like we know many of our families just can't afford the dresses or the suits. So we've been able to get a lot of dresses and clothes donated to us so we can loan those out. And we're getting ready to do another big prom this year. We're going to be shooting for 300 plus. It's going to be a costume ball around Halloween this year. And we're looking for all kinds of fun with that. Look what can happen if I actually give my child the care and nourishment and everything that they deserve. Look what can happen. They can actually
They can
be
become productive.
productive. Absolutely. And so again, it's transforming lives of everybody. And so when you take your eyes off yourself and you put it on other people, you change what you're trying to get at things. When you try to help someone else, you're not all of a sudden worried, how am I going to make it through this? I can't make it with my pain, or I can't do it because of this. God takes all that off of your shoulders and you don't need to worry about that. And, so many times we have so many things that we worry about that are completely out of our control. And I say it all the time. One of the things I absolutely hate is the saying that I've had many people tell me, and I'll stop them every time. And it's the saying, God will never give you more than you can handle. And I'm sorry, that's a lie straight from the pit of hell.
I've never seen it in the Bible.
God purposely gives you more than you can handle. I know he does. And why? It's exactly, he doesn't want you to handle it. God wants you to focus on what you have control over, period. Focus on what you have control over and give everything else to him. So most of the time, we're spending all of our time focusing on things we have no control over. And we're driving ourselves crazy. And because we aren't getting the answers we want, it's not working out the way we want it. Why? We have no control over it. Instead, give that to God and say, hey, Lord, take this. Do your will with it. And meanwhile, I've got this tiny little piece right here. I'm going to work on this. And you focus on that. And I'm telling you, as you focus on that and put your energy and effort on that, God does this other while you don't even realize it. And you get done with that, and you're like, oh, look what God just did for me.
Yes.
How cool. But when we're all stuck on what we can't control, we miss everything else, and we're completely missing what we can control. Why? We've got our eyes on ourselves. And so take your eyes off yourself, see how you can give to other people, help others out. That is the absolute best way to get yourself out of any bad situation.
No, this is wonderful what you all are doing, and everybody could be a friend. So there's no excuses. We can all be a friend. Let's be a friend and let's support SOAR. So, and Doc, so tell us again, Doc, one more time, where can everybody find you? Because I'm assuming everybody's going to want to help.
Yes.
Where can we find you?
Yes. So go to soarspecialneeds.org.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your story. I appreciate what you do, because I know it's got to be very tiresome. It just has to be. A body can only do so much, but every time I see you, you're always so upbeat and you're ready to go. It's just amazing.
I had a ornery little redheaded boy that completely broke my heart for families and individuals with disabilities, opened my eyes to it. I never thought I could be passionate for something again like I was for being a pediatrician.
Well, God gave you something
And
to be passionate
God,
for.
I'm more passionate about what I'm doing today than I ever was about being a doctor. If someone told me 20 years ago what I'm doing today, I would have laughed at them. And I'm like, yeah, no, not a chance.
That's amazing.
But I wouldn't give this up. I am so passionate about why. It's because individuals with disabilities, they're the ones who truly get it. We're disabled. They're not, because they see to the heart. We have to see what someone looks like on the outside, what color their skin is, the color of their hair, what sex they are, how they act, what they look like, what they're wearing.
Unfortunate.
They don't see that. They have this innate ability to see straight
Just
to
a
the
person.
heart.
That's right.
And if they see a heart that they know loves them, they come up and they'll hug
Can you
you.
imagine how the world would be if we
Oh
all
my
did
gosh,
that?
how amazing would that be?
Yes.
And the parents then always, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't be. And I'm giving them a hug back. And then it gives me a chance to give them my card and say, let us bless you.
Yeah.
Let us help take care of you. And they're like, oh my gosh, we've never heard of this. So SOAR Special Needs is one of the best kept secrets there is. Help us spread the word and help us transform the lives. And remember, there is no us without you.